about the girl who was weirdly obsessed with my best friend. So a little background information, I was 14 and in ninth grade, and I went to a private school, so there was only one class per grade. So my best friend and I were in class together, and we're going to call her Bella. And then there was this girl, Gabby, who I'd kind of been friends with for almost a year. Well, Gabby was a whore for popularity. Like anything that the popular kids would ask her to do, she would get on her hands and knees and do it. This woman did not care. Well, we had a project working up, so all three of us decided to work on it together. So I invited them over my house, and Gabby said that she needed to use the bathroom. So Bella offered to show her where the bathroom was. Probably 3 minutes later, Bella comes running up the stairs like she just saw a ghost. She was telling me that Gabby took all of her clothes off and tried making out with her. Well, that night they both spent the night, and I wake up in the middle of the night to Gabby pinning Bella to the wall trying to kiss her. But I went back to sleep and acted like nothing ever happened. Fast forward, it got to the point where Bella was actually feeling really unsafe, so her parents switched her schools. Story time about how my boyfriend and best friend were sneaking around behind my back. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 10th grade. So my mom and dad were split up and I was pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted because of that. So I was dating this boy named Jacob. Well, my best friend Alice literally hated him. Like low-key, every once in a while, she would try to break him and I up. And when I would call her out on it, she would just deny it. Anyway, so the one day I didn't go to school because I was super sick. So the whole day I was trying to text Jacob and Allison, but nobody was answering me. Which was extremely weird because no matter what, Allison would always text me back. So after I knew the school ended, I went to Allison's house. Nobody was answering the door, so I used the spare key. I walk in and all I hear is a very loud banging coming from her bedroom. So I walk in, I see my boyfriend and her together, and then he starts saying that she drugged him. So I went on his phone, I see a bunch of old text messages between him and her, and them exchanging pictures. And then sis wants to start giving me an attitude, so I punched her in the face, and then I left and I don't talk to either of them. Story time about how I almost got kidnapped by my online boyfriend. So a little background information, I was 16 and in 11th grade. So a year before this all happened, I posted a picture on Instagram saying, add me on Snapchat if you want to be friends. Yes, I was that person. Anyway, so this really cute guy adds me on Snapchat. And after about 3 months talking, he said that he wants to meet me in person. And he didn't sound sus at all, so I was like, sure. So we met at this park that was like 30 minutes away. And we met there around 6 o'clock, so when the sun was setting. And he was super nice. It was super romantic. Well, then we went to his house. We watched a movie and we did the nasty. So after that, he asked me if I want a drink. And what I could have swore was 20 minutes later, I wake up in an abandoned farm shed with no clothes or anything. So I start screaming my head off. I don't have my phone or anything, so I start to run. And then he grabs me. He says, if you try to run or you try to scream, I am going to kill you. Life for part 2 about how I almost got kidnapped by my online boyfriend. So like I said, I wake up in this abandoned farm shed. I don't have no clothes. I don't have a phone. So I try to run and he grabs me. He says that if you run, I will kill you. So I was like, okay, fine. What do you want from me? So he starts putting on lingerie and tells me to also put some on so we can take pictures together. What the actual you know what? So after that, he starts crying and he starts telling me his whole life story and how he's not who I think he is. Turns out that he's 32 and he just goes online pretending that he's 17 years old. So I just try to comfort him, right? It ends up working. He brings me my clothes, tells me to run, or else he's going to, once again, kill me. So I run, I go to this gas station, get picked up by the police, find my parents. Luckily for me, I paid attention to where everything was. He was arrested, he's still in prison to this day, and I got grounded for 3 months. Time about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So a little background information, I was 14 in 8th grade. I was in a very toxic friend group of 3, and we all secretly talk crap about each other. So 2 of the girls in my friend group decided that they didn't want to be friends with me anymore, for absolutely no reason. The one girl texted me saying, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, and then the other girl literally just played along with it because she can't think for herself. She was like, yeah, I've been planning on doing this for like 2 weeks. So I got very embarrassed by this because they started going around the school telling everybody about it. And not to sound like that person, but I was really popular. I had a lot more friends than them, and the only reason why people liked them was because they were my friends. Anyway, so I started texting the boys that they liked. And I was like, hey, I think you should know that they've been talking to other people while they're talking to you. And I just thought that was really wrong. And when they asked who, I gave them names of boys that they both used to talk to. And then when the girls texted me about it, like for part about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So like I said, I texted the boys that they liked, saying that they were talking to other people. And then of course my ex-best friends got mad, and then they started texting me about it, saying, oh, why are you lying, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, honestly, I just think it's really wrong for you to try and play these boys who actually have feelings for you. Yes, I know I was a little crazy, but who isn't? Anyway, so then I decided to get my mom involved, because I had been friends with these girls for a while. So my mom knew their parents very well. So I told my mom I was really worried about them because they were starting to get into really bad stuff and hanging out with the wrong crowd. So I couldn't be friends with them. And they tried to talk me into doing stuff. So then my mom called their parents. Well, then their mom started to drop them off and pick them up every day because they were grounded. Well, then their mom started to apologize to my mom because their kids were such bad influences on me. And then when everybody asked why we stopped being friends, I told them that they made fun of my grandma who isn't alive. And 4 years later, everybody still hates them. Storytime about how I caught my grandma with my dad. So a little background information, I was 16, and it was the first day of 11th grade. Well, my friend wanted me to come to the mall with her after school that day. She was like, screw your grandma's birthday, just come to the mall with me. So the plan was I would sneak onto my best friend's bus after school and skip my grandma's birthday. By the way, my grandma was low-key a hoe. Like, half of her kids won't even bring their husbands around her, because after she got their number, she would end up sending nude pictures to them. Anyway, so the end of the day rolls around and I go to my locker to get my book bag when I'm called down to the office. So I go down to the office and my mom is there to pick me up because she said that we needed to do a few things before our grandma's party. Well, my grandma was at our house getting ready and my mom forgot her wallet at home, so when we went back home, I went to go put my book bag in the house. When I walk in and I see my grandma and dad on the couch, and I'm not even gonna say what they were doing, and my mom is walking past them like she didn't see anything. So after that, I called one of my aunts and asked if I could stay with her for a while, and now I don't talk to any of them. Storytime about how I was almost kidnapped. So a little background information, I was 13, and it was the summer going into 9th grade. I was on a road trip with my family, and we needed to stop for some gas. So we stopped at some random gas station, and we see this lady get out of her car and walk in. No big deal though. So we're inside and we're waiting in line to use the bathroom. So we were in the front of the line, and then that lady was behind us, and then there were a few people behind her. So as we're standing in line, she FaceTimes some guy, and then she starts pointing the camera at people around the store, and she would be like, oh, do you like this? And he would say yes or no. Well, then she points the phone at me, and then he goes, yeah, that's the one. And my mom and I were super creeped out about this because she was being super loud and she was taking a really long time at this gas station. So my mom goes into the bathroom, and then she starts to talk to me. She starts asking how old I am, where I'm from, and if my mom and I were here with anybody else. Like for part 2 about how I was almost kidnapped. So like I said, she starts to talk to me and ask me super personal questions, and I'm being vague about everything that I possibly can be. So I go in, I use the restroom after my mom, we grab some snacks, and then she follows us around the whole store, and she didn't even use the bathroom. So we leave the store and we saw the car that she got out of, and it was parked right next to our car, when originally it was parked all the way across the parking lot. And I'm guessing the man who she was on FaceTime with was in the car, and he was sitting right where my car door was. So my mom and I decide to walk around a little bit, and this lady is just following behind us the whole time. So we call my dad, who was across the street at another store. We told him about the situation, so he comes and picks us up, and then he sees the car pick the lady up, and they start following us. So then they followed us for about 25 to 30 freaking miles, and then they ended up turning off on some random road. And I have a feeling if my mom and I didn't pay such close attention to what they were doing, I would have been kidnapped and trafficked. Time about my toxic best friend group. So a little background information. I was 16 and it was the end of 9th grade going into summer break. And one day randomly these 3 girls added me on Snapchat and put me into a group chat. Now I had seen them around school, but I never said hi to them. I was finding it very hard to make friends in 9th grade because everybody was so toxic. Anyways, like I said, they added me to a group chat and all of them said hi to me. And usually I wouldn't respond to random people on Snapchat, but because I had seen them around school, I decided why not. And it was so random. They just started sending pictures of themselves into this group chat. And it low-key made me feel bad because I kind of hated my physical appearance. But anyways, they asked me if I wanted to be friends with them. Oh, and by the way, their names were Stacy, Savannah, and Emily. So of course I said yeah because it was hard for me to make friends. So fast forward, my birthday was coming up. So they asked me if we could hang out. They said they wanted to give me an early birthday present. So I said yes, of course. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my toxic friend group. So like I said, they asked me if we could hang out to give me an early birthday present. So I said yeah. And Emily had a pool at her house, so they asked me if I wanted to go over there. And of course I said yeah, it was summertime and it was hot outside. Well, when I got there, they asked me to order the pizza and they said that I had to pay for it. So I said yeah, because they were my besties at the time. So I used some of my birthday money to pay for the pizza for all of us. And when I got back to Emily's house, they were all already in the pool. So I was kind of mad, 1, because they didn't go with me, and 2, they were just hanging out without me. So we're sitting there eating the pizza. And then after, all 3 of them get in the pool and they start taking pictures with each other, not even asking me to be in any pictures. So at that point, I was so annoyed. I was just like, you guys are being so rude. And Emily's like, what are you talking about? We didn't even do anything. And then, of course, Stacy and Savannah agreed. So I was like, 1, you didn't even ask me to be in any pictures and you made me pay for the pizza for all of us. And she was like, you're ugly. We didn't want you in the pictures. So I threw the pizza away and went home. Story time. My best friend slept with my boyfriend on my birthday. So a little background information. I was 16 and a sophomore in high school. Well, I have this best friend who we are going to call Sarah. Her and I became super close over the summertime, but she was like on and off best friends with this other girl who we're gonna call Mackenzie. But I had this boyfriend who I was also really on and off with. And Sarah knew about all the problems within our relationship. Well, I guess I underestimated how close Sarah and Mackenzie were, because everything that I told Sarah, she went back and she told Mackenzie. And not to mention, Mackenzie was really close with my boyfriend. So of course, she told my boyfriend everything that I was saying. This ended up causing a huge fight between my boyfriend and I. Well, the night before my birthday, my boyfriend and I were going back and forth arguing, and around 12 a.m. on my birthday, I forced myself to fall asleep. And at around 1 a.m., I woke up to 20 Snapchat notifications, all from my boyfriend. And when I opened them, I saw the worst thing ever. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my best friend slept with my boyfriend on my birthday. So like I said, I woke up at around 1 a.m. to 20 Snapchat notifications from my boyfriend, and I saw the absolute worst thing ever. The first 5 notifications were just him calling me names, and then all the other ones were just him doing stuff with my best friend. And you guys can already guess what I mean by doing stuff. So at this point, I was heartbroken, I was pissed off. But of course, because I gotta have the receipts, I went and took a video off my sister's phone of everything that he sent me. In the morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number, and it turned out to be my boyfriend's best friend saying that him and Sarah were now together. So my boyfriend asked me to meet up and apologize. So I met him at this park, and he apologized to me, telling me that he wanted to get back together with me. But I told him to KMA, and I left. Then Sarah came to my house and keyed my car, and then we fought on my front lawn. And then after that, she was texting me about how she was coming back to my house. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how my best friend slept with my boyfriend. So like I said, she came to my house and she keyed my car. And I caught her, so I went outside. We fought on my front lawn. After she left, she kept sending me messages saying that she was coming back to my house so we could fight again. But she was blocked, so I didn't get any of the messages. And then my ex came to my house and brought me flowers. And this was all in a span of 1 day. So because it was my birthday party, my cousins were at my house, and I already told them everything that happened. So they went outside and they fought him. Well, then I ended up sending all the videos to his parents, her parents, his siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins who loved me. Then I also decided to take legal action, and I sent the cops all of the screenshots of Sarah harassing me. And my sister got a video of us fighting, so I sent that to them too. Well, since she was 18 and I literally just turned 16, she got 3 months in county jail for minor harassment and minor physical altercations. So in the end, I think I won. Storytime about how my best friend set me up to get cheated on. So a little background information, I was 16 and in 11th grade, and I went to a very strict boarding school. I was best friends with this girl who we're gonna call Emma,
and we were the closest out of our whole friend group. Well, our boarding school also had a building for all the boys, but it was like a mile or two away from our building. Well, the days that we had off, the juniors and seniors were allowed to go visit each other's campuses. Well, a couple of the senior boys put together a little celebration before the first day of school. So my friends and I got ready, we went to the party, and my friend Emma pointed out this one group of guys. So we went over there, they were all super nice, but I hit things off with this kid who we're gonna call Ethan. We exchanged numbers. Well, when we got back to the dorm, I told Emma about Ethan, and she was like being super weird. She was like, ew, you shouldn't date him. He's really sus. I would have thought that she wished that she got with Ethan, but she hit it off with one of the guys from the same friend group. So Ethan and I end up dating, and Emma did not like that. Like for part 3. Part 2 about how my best friend set me up to get cheated on. So like I said, sooner or later, Ethan and I started dating, and Emma did not like that. And Ethan was honestly the best boyfriend ever. Never saw any red flags or anything like that. So fast forward, Ethan and I have been dating for 4 months. Well, winter break rolled around, and you had a choice to just take the day off, or you could stay and help the school clean up and stuff like that. So Ethan and I decided to go help at the school, and he was just acting super different. It wasn't like cheating or anything like that, but something was off. Like, he would tell me to go through his phone, but the weird thing was is he always deleted his messages with Emma. Well, the one day Emma sends me a video of Ethan making out with some girl. So I broke up with Ethan. He said it wasn't his fault, but he couldn't tell me why. Well, a month goes by, and one of the other girls in our friend group says that she has to tell me something. Apparently, she went through Emma and Ethan's conversations, and Emma was blackmailing him with a video of him destroying school property. She said that she would send it to the school if he didn't send her proof of him cheating on me. Now, Ethan and I have been dating for 2 years, and Emma still tries to reach out, but everyone in our friend group cut her off. Story time about how I saw my boyfriend propose to another girl in front of me. So a little background information. At the time, my boyfriend and I had been together for around 4 years. We had 2 kids together, and our relationship was pretty rocky. Within the first year of us dating, he would cheat on me all the time, and both times that I was pregnant, he would cheat on me also. Now, after I popped out the second kid, our relationship was going pretty well. And if you're wondering why I didn't leave him when he was cheating on me all the time, well, it was mainly because I grew up in a broken home. And remembering how hard it was on me whenever my parents broke up, I didn't want that for them. Well, over the past few months, my boyfriend had been traveling all over the country with his dad, going to meetings and stuff because he was getting ready to take over half the company. Well, fast forward, it's a Thursday, and my boyfriend has a meeting with some associates who flew in from out of state, and later that night we were supposed to get on a flight with our friends to go to the Bahamas. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend literally proposed to another girl right in front of me. So like I said, my boyfriend had a meeting with some associates who flew in from out of town. And that night we were supposed to be on a plane to the Bahamas with our friends. So while he was getting ready for this meeting, I went and I dropped the kids off early. And he went to this meeting and I drove our luggage over to our friend's house. Because they were just going to drive us to the airport. So my girlfriend and I are super pumped to go on this trip. So we decided to start drinking early and we went somewhere to get drinks. She suggests this high-end place because the guy at the bar has a crush on her and always gives her free drinks. So we're sitting there having a really good time drinking at the bar. So while we're sitting there, we hear a bunch of clapping and cheering coming from outside. So us being drunk and nosy, we go out there to see what's going on. And what are the chances I walk out there and my boyfriend is down on one knee in front of another girl? And I'm not very confrontational whenever I drink, so I told my best friend to just take me back to her house. When we got back, it was around 6 p.m. And my boyfriend tells me that he's just going to meet us at the airport like for part 3. Part 3 about how my boyfriend proposed to another girl right in front of me. I know this is late, but better late than never. So like I said, we left, I went back to her house, and my boyfriend has the audacity to text me, I'll just meet you guys at the airport. So my best friend's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go beat him up? Of course I said no, so I told her and her boyfriend to just go to the airport while I figured out what I was going to do, and to not say a word. Which was hard for my best friend because she was confrontational as fuck. So I texted my boyfriend saying that I was sick and I just wasn't going to go to the Bahamas with them, when in reality I was packing up our whole house, leaving him with only his clothes and his shoes. So I put all the stuff in storage and I just decided to move back to my mom's house. And yes, this was in a span of a few days. So the whole time that he was gone, I was acting like everything was okay. On the last day of the trip, I sent him a text saying that I knew about everything. And I said I never wanted to hear from him again and I never wanted him to see the kids again. And he took that quite literally. I never got a text back. Well, 4 months after all this happened, I soon find out that he got a new house in North Carolina with his new wife and they have a daughter on the way.
So a lot of people argue that you should never look through your man's phone. But like, what if you just have that gut feeling that something's going on? And even worse, what if you do open his Snapchat and see a naked girl? So I downloaded this app called Wink and made a friend that we can call Shane. And even though Shane and I got really close over the phone, he lived in another state, so we never really got to meet. But one night he was coming home drunk from a hotel with his cousin, and I was coming home from a college party, and I said his cousin, who we can call PJ, was hot AF. And so Shane was like, oh my God, let me give you this man's snap. And a few months later, PJ and I were talking. And he agreed to drive the 4 hours to come to my state just to see me. I was busy cleaning my apartment that day preparing for him to come and told him just to walk in when he gets here. So when this man came in, I kid you not, he walked in with a bouquet of flowers. And they were a dozen yellow roses, which he knew were my favorite. And after he left on Sunday, he asked if he could see me the next week, and I happily said yes. And before long, PJ and I started dating, but this happiness was soon to end. So welcome back to me finding nudes on my boyfriend's phone. I'm sorry, ex-boyfriend now. But seriously, guys, do not be love blind, because this guy literally was driving 4 hours to see me every week. He would call me on all of his breaks. All of my friends were completely won over by him. And it didn't take him long to win over my family too. And about a month in, he finally took me to meet his friends and family. Our lives meshed so well that he asked me to move in with him at a party that night. I was hesitant at first, but then I packed up all of my stuff out of my apartment and moved out of state to be with this man. And after all of that, this man switched it up on me. He stopped taking me to parties with him and started leaving on Friday afternoons while I was at work and wouldn't tell me where he was. He wouldn't come home until like 6 or 7 in the morning on Saturday. And then we would just argue the rest of the weekend about it. Like, sir, I moved away from my family, moved out of my apartment, quit my job for you. He was straight up treating me like it didn't matter, and I saw him going to his phone all the time and acting secretive. And eventually I couldn't take it anymore, so I opened his phone when he was sleeping. So part 3 to me finding nudes on my cheating boyfriend's phone. I also forgot to mention this giant red flag. We were no longer active. Like, this man had cut off our sex life. So when I grabbed his phone, the first Snapchat that I opened was from a girl who was touching herself. My heart stopped for a second, but I was like, okay, let me just give this man the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just some girl trying to be sneaky, trying to pull one over him. But then I noticed that all of the recent snaps were from girls. So I started to go through all of his conversations and realized that he was messing with every girl on his snap. Every! And then there was this one girl who didn't have like sexual messages with him. They were more like lovey-dovey. But it went back to way before we were dating, so this man had never been faithful to me. I broke down, I blocked every girl on his snap, and then I threw his phone at his face to wake him up. I demanded to know why he cheated on me, and that's when he realized that I'd blocked all the girls, and he freaked out and lunged at me. We got into an all-out brawl, and I broke my hand in the process and locked myself in the guest room. I think this is part 4 to my boyfriend cheating on me with every single girl on his Snapchat. So this is, of course, where this man just, sprinkled on a little bit of his gaslighting. I locked myself in the guest room, and then he started to cry and act pathetic from the other side of the door. Just saying that he was sorry, that he effed up, and he never meant to hurt me, and it was all his fault. And in that moment, I didn't know what else to do. I unlocked the door and cried in his arms, terrified. And I needed to go to the hospital because my hand was literally broken from our fight. Because I had given up everything and I was so in love with him, I decided to work things out, but it literally only lasted a week. We made the decision to break up, but he convinced me to keep living with him. But we set up ground rules, which included no girls over at the apartment and him not talking bad behind my back. But of course, one night when we went out to a party, we got into a massive fight and he caused a scene. And he talked so much smack about me at this party that his friend, who's a girl, turned around and was like, hey, you need to come live with me. I packed up my things and left, but I ended up moving in with Shane, the cousin, instead. And then I got really drunk one night and slept with Shane. So, for the next part. My ex cheated on me with every single girl in his Snapchat. So you might be wondering what happened after I slept with his cousin? Well, I felt awful because then me and PJ got back together a week later. You probably want to slap me, but he was different this time. He was caring, he was gentle, but literally I was not happy anymore. Everything felt so wrong. I decided to move back home with my sister, and as soon as I did, PJ started cheating on me again. And as soon as we broke up, I found out that I was pregnant. He ghosted me and left me to figure out things on my own. So I blocked him. And sadly, about a month after finding out I was pregnant, I ended up miscarrying. And PJ ended up getting a new phone and started texting me and calling me and blowing up asking to talk. And that's when I realized he didn't even know that I had lost the baby. So I decided to end up talking to him, and he tried to get me back. I was extremely confused during this time. I continued to move on and away from him, but then he started just harassing me on TikTok. He would admit to cheating on me in the comments, like bragging about it. And now he has a girlfriend, so I hope someone warns her. If you have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Insta. You guys are not even gonna believe it when I say that when I was 15, I almost became a stepmom. Yes, we did skip a few chapters, so let's start from the beginning of the book. Back in the day, in middle school, there was this new bad boy in town. And for the purpose of the story, his name will be Dean. So Dean was a little bit older, but he would date some of the middle school girls. A little sus, I know, but even beyond this man had a bad reputation. And I did my best to stay away from guys like him. That was until the second quarter of my sophomore year in high school happened. And while my mom and I were walking around Walmart looking for a pair of jeans, we ran into Dean's mom. Well, our mom started talking and bonded really well. And that's when his mom suggested that we would be a really cute couple. She talked about how much he's changed, so I went ahead and added him on Snap. And the insane thing is that we actually started having really good conversation, like deep existential ones. But one night I was bored and started to creep on his Instagram account, and I came across a gender reveal photo. This man had a whole son on the way, and I accidentally liked the photo, and that's when I got a text from Dean saying, "Go ahead, ask me." So part 2 to me almost becoming a stepmom at the age of 15. So when he asked me about liking the gender reveal photo, I just decided to go ahead and play it dumb and be like, "What?" And then he tried to act like that text was meant for someone else. And then I go, "Are you sure you didn't want to ask me about your kid?" He was literally so embarrassed and thought that I would think of him differently. But he told me that him and that girl broke up, so I honestly didn't care. I was just like, so I could potentially be his stepmom. And he was like, yeah, I would actually love that. So we continue to snap and talk as normal and start to date. I caught feelings for Dean so hard. But one night when we were snapping, I got really excited and opened it up. And it was some girl. It said, "Who the F are you and why are you snapping my man?" I was like, "Me and Dean have been talking." And she was like, "I'm his baby mama and girlfriend." So I literally told her everything that this man had said to me and that he was in love with me. But then I blocked him on everything because I didn't want to break up their family. Ladies, if a baby mama is involved, always do that little extra bit of stalking to make sure they're really not together. Follow my Insta. Have you guys ever had just little random things go missing from your house? It happens a lot and you just don't really think anything of it. But what if those things started to show up at your doorstep? That is exactly what my stalker did to me. So as all scary stories start, I met a guy on Tinder. And for the sake of the story, I feel like his name should be Ted. So Ted and I really hit it off and dated for 3 months, and that's when he asked me to be his girlfriend. I of course said yes, but that's when I saw a switch in his personality. He became this very dark, controlling figure in my life and kept me from seeing any of my friends and family. Once I realized this was emotional abuse, I left. And he was eerily calm about the breakup, which was not consistent with his controlling behavior. And around this time, I started to get anonymous packages delivered to my house. And they contained stuff that had been missing from my home. I tried to brush it off, but couldn't help but think it might be Ted. But that's when I got a text from Ted's best friend saying that Ted had passed away in a car crash. So I ruled him out, but that's when more weird things kept happening. The anonymous packages kept showing up, and then I noticed a car would follow me everywhere I went. Storytime part 2 to my stalker sending me missing items from my house. After I got the text message that my ex had passed away in a car crash, I immediately ruled him out. Like, there's no way you can be dead and sending me packages. And then I started to notice anytime I would leave my house to go run errands, this one car was always there. They would always follow close or park next to me. And sometimes I would even think that I could see Ted, but I thought I was just imagining it because I was dealing with his loss. But then I started to get texts from a random number, giving me information about where I lived, what I was doing. So I obviously blocked it. And then hundreds of new numbers would start to text me, and I couldn't keep blocking them all. So I finally talked to my mom about it, and she made me go to the police. That's when the officers tracked one of the numbers back to Ted's house, which really confused me because I had already grieved his loss. But the officers let me know that he was very much alive, and they went to go arrest him and found him in my neighborhood in the car that I had seen following me, which was stolen and had photos of me all over it. If you guys have a story you want to share, follow me on Insta. The best thing to bring 2 girls together is being cheated on by the same man. So this is my best friend, and around the beginning of February last year, she got into a relationship with a man. And we'll go ahead and call this guy Bronson. So they had known each other for about 2 years prior and had talked on and off. But February of last year, they finally decided to get together. And he was like her ideal man. He was tall, Sagittarius, and had a country accent. And let me just tell you, he even charmed all of her friends. I straight up thought he was so good for her. That was until the bachelorette party. So she was a bridesmaid and I was a maid of honor in a wedding. And we noticed while we were out, her text messages got muted. And so we decided to look at his Snap location. And it was not where he was usually supposed to be. Spence texted him the next morning and was like, "Hey, did you cheat?" And he completely denied it. So we chose to believe him until he fessed up 2 days later. We literally found the girl's TikTok later that day. He said he wouldn't cheat on her again as long as she didn't cross state lines again. And that remained true for 2 months. Part 2 to my best friend meeting her roommate. So even though Bronson had cheated on her, they decided to go ahead and try to make things work. Sometimes people make mistakes in relationships and things can be fixed. 2 months went by and everything seemed fantastic. This leads us to our date night. So Spence and Bronson were both asleep, but then she woke up to his phone literally blowing up. She went over to go check it because Bronson wasn't waking up, and it was just one of his guy friends blowing up his phone. So being worried that he might be in trouble or some kind of danger, she went ahead and decided to pick up the phone. Well, a girl answered on the other end. And it wasn't just any girl, it was his ex-girlfriend. And she was just as confused as Spence was. So they were still seeing each other while she thought that Spence was just a friend and Spence thought that she had been totally blocked. But he had just changed her ID contact to one of his best friend's names so that she wouldn't question anything. We'll call her Ashley, and they decided to meet up to discuss everything. And long story short, they ended up kicking him out and moving in together. But if you want more details on that, we can give a part 3 and 4. Follow me on Instagram if you want to send in your story. So in the summer of 2020, my baby daddy was working as a salesman. But obviously, there is a lot that can go wrong with this. So at the time, we were making bank and getting that bag. Literally, I kid you not, $5,000 every couple of days. So you can say we were doing pretty well for ourselves at that time. But one particular night that he had a sale, I had a really bad gut feeling. These people asked to meet him about a block away from our house. And this sales product was worth about $3,500. But he had already made about $1,700 this morning, so I was kind of concerned about this next sale. I was laying in my room about to tell him not to go when he just went ahead and left. And that's when I heard yelling from down the block. I was like, oh my God, and I looked out my window and there was 4 guys surrounding him with masks on. That's when I heard my baby daddy yell for me to bring the money. I immediately said okay and started to rush to grab everything. As I was running down the stairs with the money and approaching them, I noticed that one of the guys had a gun to the back of my baby daddy's head. Follow my Insta for part 2. Storytime part 2 about my baby daddy having a bad, sale. So as I start to go to them, they start to head up the stairs to me. And as we're approaching each other, I can see that one of the guys has a gun to the back of my baby daddy's head. Another guy has a knife to his throat, and the other one just looks like he was the muscle of the group. They were literally walking to come to our house. I made sure it was entirely pitch black within my place so that they couldn't see anything that was there. And I just brought them the money. I was like, take it, here it is. And he just stared at it. And then I said a little bit louder, take it. And he was just looking at it. And then I screamed, take it, it's here. And that's whenever he took the money and started to push my baby daddy up the stairs. I was pushed to the side as they looked around to see if they could take anything else. But they obviously couldn't see anything and just left. Neither of us slept for several days, thinking that they would probably come back. But thankfully, they never did. My baby daddy is still a salesman to this day. We're just more cautious, and I'm working on getting my education so I can get a steady job. If you have a story, DM me on Insta. Story time about the craziest party my boyfriend ever went to. So his best friend TJ called him saying that there was a party going on in another town. Him, having just went through a breakup, was really upset and was in the mood for a party. So TJ picked up him and his friend Ava and went to the town to pick up another friend who played basketball. It was about 9 o'clock when they got there, and they had all already pre-gamed with Henny. And because he was so upset, the alcohol was hitting. He had also listened to hella Drake. And all the guys were just in the mood for a fight. And Jeremy honestly thought Ava would shut things down if it got too crazy. But little did he know. So the party was at this massive rented building, and they had to wait 30 minutes for someone to come and let them inside. However, Ava went in ahead of them because a guy thought she was cute. And once they walked in, they saw just how nice the place was. Everything smelled of alcohol and weed, and the place had an amazing view. There were gorgeous windows all around, and so many celebrity basketball players showed up. So they knew that they were in, and they were gonna go get more drinks at the bar. But TJ was so drunk he was gone. And his friend inside the party was already hitting on a girl. Turns out she was someone else's girl. So they knew a fight was about to go down. Stay tuned and follow us on Insta. Part 2 to my boyfriend's crazy party story. I never gave a name for the guy inside the party, but we can call him Michael. So Michael was literally flirting with this other man's girl. And for some reason, these guys were like, yeah, let's fight. I don't know how boys think. Jeremy's literally hyping himself up in the bathroom, and then he hears screaming, so he knows it's time to go down. As he stumbles out of the bathroom, ready to fight, he sees Michael and the girl's boyfriend beating each other up. But his friend group never jumped in, so TJ and him stayed back. until security jumped in. That's when they realized the guy that Michael was fighting was probably important because they kicked them out and not the other guys. So while they're getting escorted out, TJ starts talking back, which is when he knew things were about to get real. They knew that the other guys were getting pissed off and threatening them. The guys literally started shooting at them. So the bullets were inches away from hitting Jeremy and his friends. So Michael jumped into the front seat of the car and started to drive away. So ultimately, Ava had the best night. And she asked all of them how their night went. And they were all literally like, it was chill, you didn't miss anything. But oh well, if you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram.